The Bureau of Justice Assistance is pleased to announce the availability of a new grant program. The Smart Pretrial Demonstration Initiative, SPDI, administered by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, is part of BJA's SMART suite of crime-fighting programs: Smart Prosecution, Smart Policing, Smart Supervision, and now Smart Pretrial. BJA established the first program within this SMART suite over 4 years ago with the launch of Smart Policing. Smart Policing supports law enforcement agencies in building evidence-based, data-driven law enforcement tactics and strategies that are effective, efficient, and economical. Smart Policing represents a strategic approach that brings more science into police operations by leveraging innovative applications of analysis, technology, and evidence-based practice. The goal of Smart Policing is to improve policing performance and effectiveness while containing costs, an important consideration in today's fiscal environment. The FY 2014 SPDI grant program seeks to build upon analysis-driven, evidence-based pretrial justice by encouraging local and tribal jurisdictions to effectively implement risk assessment and appropriate supervision and/or diversion strategies targeting pretrial outcomes within their jurisdiction. This program is funded under the Edward Byrne Memorial Competitive Grant Program. The Byrne Competitive Program helps local communities improve the functioning and capacity of state and local criminal justice systems and provides for national support efforts, including training and technical assistance programs strategically targeted to address local needs. This informational video is sponsored by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, the Pretrial Justice Institute, and the National Association of Counties. It was designed to provide interested jurisdictions with information on pretrial justice in America today, an overview of the elements of Smart Pretrial and application requirements, and where to go for additional resources and support in the preparation of your application. BJA, PJI, and NACO will be hosting 2 live question and answer sessions prior to the application due date. Instructions for those sessions is posted on both PJI and NACO websites. The current system of bail in most U.S. jurisdictions is fundamentally incapable of doing the job we expect from it. It is dangerous, outdated, unfair, and expensive, costing taxpayers more than $9 billion each year without doing enough to protect public safety. Those with money, regardless of the danger they pose to the community or to individuals, can purchase their freedom, while poor, often low-risk defendants remain in jail. And we know now from research recently released by the Laura and John Arnold Foundation that defendants who are high risk and/or violent are often released. Nearly half of those who are the highest risk are released pending trial. Recent research by the Arnold Foundation has also shown that for low-risk defendants, even short-term stays in jail, pre-trial, can have significant impact on both the immediate and long-term recidivism. Therefore, it is imperative that systems as quickly and as accurately as possible assess the risk of flight and rearrest posed by individuals so that appropriate decisions can be made about their detention or release pending trial. When defendants remain in jail pre-trial, their outcomes, both in the short term and in the long term, are much worse. The results on this slide are comparing like defendants, meaning individuals with the same charges, same criminal history, and same characteristics. You see from this slide that people held pre-trial receive harsher outcomes simply because they were not able to secure release. Since 2009, the number of organizations who have called for a move from resource-based pretrial justice systems to risk-based pretrial justice systems has grown. Many of these organizations have their own training and technical assistance pretrial justice initiatives underway. For more information on those initiatives, please refer to the newly published annual report of the Pretrial Justice Working Group, available on the homepage of the Pretrial Justice Institute. I'm now going to spend a few minutes talking about the specifics of the SMART Pretrial Demonstration Initiative. These are the key elements of a high-functioning pretrial justice system. I'm going to take a few minutes to go through each one. The first is the immediate or early release of eligible arrestees after positive identification and assessment of risk of flight and recidivism. In some jurisdictions, this is being done at the cite and release opportunity. In others, it is done prior to booking, but at a central location where positive identification can be made. The second element is often referred to as universal pretrial risk assessment. This is the screening of every booked defendant for risk of flight and pretrial recidivism, regardless of their eligibility for release. Under this initiative, jurisdictions must implement, if they are not already, a BJA-approved risk assessment tool. The third bullet refers to the early review of charges by a seasoned prosecutor. This enables jurisdictions to quickly assess whether a defendant is eligible in the jurisdiction for alternatives to traditional prosecution, if the case is sufficient enough to move forward, and what might be appropriate charges. The fourth bullet refers to the presence of defense counsel prepared to provide effective representation at the earliest hearing which could result in pretrial detention. 5. The release or detention of defendants is informed by the outcome of the risk assessment and some adversarial hearing. Where permitted by current legislation, preventive detention hearings should be considered. Due process is essential to a high-functioning system. Number 6. The use of court reminder protocols and risk-based supervision or other diversion for released defendants. Research shows, by adhering to the risk and need principle for supervision strategies, we can produce better outcomes. And finally, if convicted, the transfer of information about the defendant's pretrial supervision outcomes is provided to the sentencing court, prosecutor, defense counsel, as well as any subsequent supervising authority. The goal of SPDI is to test the cost savings and public safety enhancements that can be achieved when jurisdictions move to a pretrial model that uses risk assessment to inform decision-making and employs improved risk management strategies, including supervision and diversion. At a minimum, sites will be required to implement and utilize a BJA-approved, empirically derived pretrial risk assessment instrument, as well as develop, implement, and test risk-based supervision strategies. Applicants should be ready to address each of the key elements, noting any legislative or similar challenges they might have in implementing these key elements. BJA is also investing nearly $1 million in each of the 3 years of this initiative to provide technical assistance and training support coordinated by the Pretrial Justice Institute. PJI will manage a consortium of providers who will assist sites directly in all phases of the initiative. A BJA-supported researcher will work with sites to measure pretrial outcomes, such as pretrial rearrest and failure to appear, and associated pretrial justice costs. With the guidance of BJA and the technical assistance providers, participating jurisdictions will form a multidisciplinary policy team where such a team is not already established. This team will serve as the focal point of the project. Key members of the policy team include the stakeholders shown on this slide. Jurisdictions are encouraged, but not required, to include other stakeholders, such as victim advocacy groups, the faith-based community, and others who have a stake in local criminal justice policy. Jurisdictions are not required to currently have a standalone pretrial services program. The initiative has 3 phases. At this time, BJA has the resources to support proposals from sites for 2 years of funding, the second of which may only be accessed after BJA approves the deliverables from Phase 1. The first phase is a planning phase. Applications should post a start date of October 1st, 2014, and the duration of Phase 1 is expected to be no longer than 1 year. Sites do not have to take the full year for planning. Movements to the second phase will be milestone-based. Each participating jurisdiction will identify an individual to coordinate the local effort. This individual will work closely with BJA and PJI and other technical assistance providers to coordinate all activities throughout the project. A job description for the local site coordinator is included in the appendix. Sites may choose to hire someone or reassign an existing employee to this role. The hiring or reassignment of personnel for the SPDI local site coordinator role requires BJA approval. At the start of the planning phase, the full policy team will travel to DC for a kickoff event hosted by BJA and PJI. Other Phase 1 activities include a system assessment, a collective vision for pretrial justice in the jurisdiction, and the collection of baseline measures. For more information about specific data elements, please see pages 9 and 10 of the solicitation. These items are not required as a part of Phase 1 application. The local policy team will meet regularly, and those meetings will be facilitated by the local site coordinator with support from an assigned technical assistance provider. By the end of Phase 1, sites will have developed an action plan to be submitted to BJA. Sites will advance to Phase 2 based on the quality of the work plan and the progress made during Phase 1 to codify agreements locally that will allow for implementation. Sites must have BJA approval to move to Phase 2. Again, this is not time dependent, and there is no automatic advancement based on time elapsed. Phase 2 will be an implementation phase, and the support structures put in place during Phase 1 will continue through Phase 2. Technical assistance will be provided to aid with successful implementation. Sites will not be required to pay for this assistance with their site funding. Sites will be required to participate in ongoing educational opportunities, such as distance learning, as well as a second cross-site meeting to be held in Washington, D.C., in the fall of 2015. Local policy teams will continue to meet regularly to review progress. Sites will continue to collect data and prepare quarterly reports to the BJA-funded researcher. These reports will also be used in the policy team's meetings locally. In addition to the independent researcher, BJA is supporting an initiative communications strategy that will include documenting the process and the progress of the initiative in a variety of ways, such as on-camera interviews with stakeholders, filming of local policy teams, and other such activities. Sites will be required to participate in these documentation activities. BJA currently hopes to be able to fund the sites for a third phase of this initiative. The technical assistance and training support, including the independent researcher, will be funded for all 3 years. Advancements to Phase 3 will require the submission of a proposal for funding, and an award will be determined based on the successful implementation of the activities in Phase 2. During Phase 3, BJA expects to support up to 2 of the sites to serve as learning sites and will aid in the development of materials that would support the hosting of delegations from other jurisdictions, as well as multimedia to enable distance learning by other sites. These are the selection criteria for your proposal. Successful applicants will be able to fully articulate each of these sections. Because there is a prescribed process for this initiative, the design and implementation has a reduced weighting. More important to BJA and the goals of this initiative are a jurisdiction's ability to show they fully understand the elements of a high-functioning pretrial justice system, have a sense of their local need for improvement, and demonstrate an authentic commitment from key stakeholders to collaboratively implement legal and research-based policies and procedures. Applicants should also pay special attention to the data collection requirements on page 9 and 10 of the solicitation. In this section of your proposal, be sure to state whether or not that data is currently available, even if it is not currently easily accessible. Proposals are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern on May 27, 2014. If you have not done so already, you must register in advance with grants.gov. Information is available at the URL listed on this slide. Registering in advance will enable you to download an application package which can be completed online and then loaded into grants.gov. Again, you must register in advance with grants.gov. Thank you for taking time today to watch this webinar. Staff from BJA and PJI, in partnership with the National Association of Counties, will host 2 live question and answer sessions. The dates and times appear here. To register for either session, please visit the website listed on the slide. You may also submit questions in advance. We will transcribe both sessions and post them on the PJI website for all applicants to review. Finally, there are a number of resources we encourage you to review when preparing your application. All resources are available on pretrial.org or on the NACO website, as well as the Arnold Foundation website. In particular, we encourage you to take a look at the Pretrial Justice Working Group report recently released. Thank you for watching today, and good luck with your application.